Good morning, everyone. Dr. Christine Smith here, and we are doing a fun and kind of different live today. I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Jennifer Horton, MD, who is a functional family physician, and she's actually going to be more interviewing me, which will be interesting, but we really just wanted to have a conversation about health, and I wanted to tap into basically how our hormones are involved in our healing cascade. So hopefully she'll hop on in just a second here. There we go. Yes. Hi there, Dr. Jen. How are you?
Hey, amazing, Christine. Good to see you.
Good to see you
Yeah,
too. Thank you so much for taking the time to have some fun today.
totally. Really quick, I'm a DO. I'm a doctor of osteopathic medicine, just FYI, but very similar, similarly trained to MD.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. I'll make sure to
Yeah,
correct that on the title page.
yeah, no worries.
But yes, for anyone who's not totally familiar, I kind of consider DO and MD similar, but DOs tend to get a lot more holistic wellness education, and you can probably speak more to that. So I'd love to hear your take on that too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We get some hands-on musculoskeletal training. You know, it's not exactly what chiropractic training is, but
I'm very
we have
close to
that
going the
wheelhouse.
DO route.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, so yes, you teed it up that I'm kind of taking over your panel today.
Yeah, kind of
So
like it.
you get to sit back and relax and just enjoy the other side of things because you're so good at the interview side. I've seen lots of your lives with other guests. And so now let's, like I said, turn the tables. I know we've been going back and forth with some questions, and we'll make this pretty casual, nothing formal, right? So we'll just see where it goes. And both of us can watch the feed for questions. So
Yep,
you ready?
I am ready.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yes, I saw that you just waved to me, so we're good. And I have my questions to the left, so that's why I'm looking over here.
Perfect.
So I know you have an upcoming course, and we'll talk about that maybe towards the end. But could you just talk a little bit about, and I feel like we have a lot of overlap in our approach to working with women and hormones. So when you talk about this idea of hidden injuries or hidden inflammation, and that being maybe one of the first paths you take when working with a patient, what does that look like? Tell me more about that.
Sure. So it took me a while to figure out how I kind of wanted to niche down because ultimately disease comes from a lot of different things. And I always wanted to treat the root cause and the fundamental aspects of it. And I'm a really big fan of understanding biochemistry and understanding how your cells communicate with each other and understanding where there can be hiccups in that. And I landed on hidden injury because a lot of people have their system in a biochemical cascade that is an injury cascade. They're stuck in an injury cascade, but they don't even know it because it can happen to your vascular tissue or to your gut or to your brain or to your muscles. And muscles, that's more what people think of as an injury, like, oh, I strained a hamstring, but people don't really think of like spraining their gut. But this can happen, and your gut can get injured in a lot of ways. It can get injured from what you're eating. I mean, that's obviously like the biggest one, and people forget that our gut has the most intense interaction with the outside environment of anything else in our body except maybe our skin and our nervous system, because it is the thing that is touching every single outside foreign item that we're putting in our mouth. So it is always on the defense. It's always working really, really hard. It's actually our second brain, called the enteric nervous system. And that's just something that is important for all of us to know and to understand. And so when we start thinking of it that way, like, I could have a vascular injury and that could be creating systemic inflammation in my body, or even like I just had to have some dental work done, right? And I had a filling replaced that was, gosh, I don't know, probably almost as old as I am, and it was probably done in my teens. And he took that out, and there's like a whole bunch of decay under there. And that is something that my body has been fighting and dealing with. And my tooth felt fine. It's just that that was there. And so people forget that their bodies are dealing with all these little hidden things. And sometimes it's not always that one event that kicks you into a disease cascade. It's usually like 30 to 40 little events that accumulate, and then all of a sudden your body reaches a threshold. So that's kind of how I teach people to think about it. I'm just going to put my phone on.
Oops. All right, perfect. Yeah, so it's, and I talk about that as well. It's about looking at a person's physiology to find those hidden injuries, hidden forms of inflammation that are then impacting the biggies, the estrogen, the progesterone. I often, we're talking about hormones, people just jump to, PMS, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, but it's by looking at the other hormones of physiology around those big guns, so to speak. And when we make that better, right, then often those other hormones become happier. Has that been your experience as well?
100%. And I think that's actually why I really enjoy like speaking with you and collaborating with you. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Jen and I are both in the Arvada area, so that's fun. We've actually known each other for a little while. But I love practitioners like yourself who are more functionally minded, because if you just sit there treating hormones, which can be important because like we need our hormones to rebuild our tissues, and if you're really struggling with hormone issues, it can become difficult to rebuild your tissues. However, if you don't figure out why the hormones are in a whacked out state, it's just kind of treating the downstream effect and not actually addressing the cause. So if you're only looking at hormones, it's very much like a Band-Aid type of thing. And it's one of those things where I'll tend to turn to any kind of exogenous hormone as hopefully a last resort, because a lot of the time, if people can correct a few little tweaks in their lifestyle and understand how to read their own body, then they don't even need that. And that can be good in a lot of ways, because even though being on hormones can be really, really helpful, they can also have some weird side effects, especially depending on like age group and things like that. So if we can get it done naturally, like why not? And that's a lot of what I end up teaching, and like why I ended up making the course that I did, is because I had so many people where we were talking about all the same stuff in our first few appointments. And then after their first 3 appointments, we'd make the lifestyle tweaks and they'd be better. And so I was like, well, why can't I just make this something that's more accessible? Because people are always talking about the issue of functional medicine not being accessible because of cost, which I totally get. But at the same time, it's just like the economics of our society. Like it's just hard to make available to everyone with the amount of effort that goes into it and time. And so I started doing group programs because, one, they're also more fun. It's really lonely to heal by yourself. And there's like, if you're not feeling like yourself, there's a whole weird identity crisis and like grief that comes with that. And that's a really lonely place to be. And I went through my own health thing and was in between practitioners who were wonderful practitioners. But god dang, it was really lonely in between appointments. And so I liked the idea of having a supportive group over a duration of time. So I usually do it over the course of about 5 weeks, because that's how long it takes to change a habit. Like we're told 30 days, but really it's like 90 days. And so, somewhere in between, I try to aim for about at least 30 to get you started. But it's educating you with enough knowledge so that you can carry that forward, because you've already kind of made the neural patterns and the neural grooves for that. And I describe the course kind of like a home retreat, because we can all use a vacation and we could all use a little retreat. And it's a way that you can actually start to alter what we call your default mode network in your brain, which is like everything you do on a subconscious autopilot level, which is so much stronger when you're at home, because you have all of your normal little triggers that trigger your old habits. It's way easier to change on a retreat when you're like on an island, right? That's nice. But not everybody has the time to do that. And so this is a way that you can do it at home, but you can still have the community, you can have the connection. Because like I love one-on-one care, it's great, but I actually prefer doing group courses. They're more fun for everybody, and it has the element of human connection beyond what I can provide as an individual, because everybody's different and everybody needs different input. And sometimes you might connect with something someone in the group said more than something that I said. And I just get to kind of facilitate this safe container for a transformation to happen, because it's really hard to always do transformation on your own because you don't have that container. I kind of teach people how to set containers through stuff like intention and doing like little home ceremonies, because we've totally forgotten the purpose of ceremony in our society, which has been around for thousands of years for a reason, because it changes your intention and it changes your energy, which means it changes your intrinsic motivation. And so if you can start doing those things for yourself while also having a group and a container to do it with, it just changes drastically. So anyway, I think that was a bit of a tangent off your question about hormones, but
yes,
at the same time, being in community alters your hormones. You're going to have a better effect of your care when you are feeling safe and supported.
absolutely. And the literature, the scientific literature actually says that social isolation is a bigger risk factor than smoking, obesity, alcohol, all the lifestyle things that everybody always thinks they need to make better and work on, right? But social isolation, you know, is that initial phenomenon. I'll just say an absolute nod to the power of group programs, besides, yes, just making it more affordable, expanding, you know, what we can do. I'm only one person. I can only meet with so many people one-on-one, but I literally have seen people get better just in a group setting and not be working with me one-on-one. Wow. So now I take my group programs and I actually offer them to my one-on-one patients because I want them to accelerate that timeline even more. And I think the group process helps bridge that gap between keeping it going. I mean, this is hard work that we're talking about, making these changes, doing what you know that you need to do. I always think about you're closing the gap between what I know I should be doing and what I'm doing. And life happens. And when you're in a group with people who are doing the same thing, you know, it just raises you up and pushes you faster.
Yeah,
right?
it's like their energy pulls you into it, right? So it's like you're not having to get the momentum all by yourself. And you know, that we can go down like a whole rabbit hole about like frequency and coherence and being in coherence with other people. And that is something we can do over Zoom, which is really nice. Of course, it's always better in person, but Zoom is just more accessible for people because people are busy. We have busy lives. But I also want to address that, like, that busy life and the not having time to go to a group thing, that is the isolation. And so that is where the Zoom stuff can come in handy, is because it makes it more realistic for people. But like, you can be isolated in a room full of people. It's just about if you feel connected to them or not.
That's deep. Absolutely.
And so it's just that understanding of that. And then when that, you know, when we come back to the hormones of that, let's dive into that pathway. So, you know, we can talk about the cortisol steal. And a lot of people have never even heard of this. And cortisol steal, and you know, there's a lot of different theories around it, but essentially it means that your stress pathway is stealing building blocks from your hormone pathway. And the things that your body would need to build hormones are being absorbed by that stress pathway. And that is things like cholesterol, which a lot of people don't realize that cholesterol is actually a good thing in a lot of ways. We need it to build our myelin sheaths. We need it for our hormones. We need it for our stress hormones. We need it for cellular linings. It's part of what makes our cellular lining have proper integrity. And cholesterol will often increase when we're in an inflamed state because it is doing its job of delivering molecules to different areas. So if I see high cholesterol on someone's panel, I am immediately thinking about, why are they inflamed? Why do they have high cholesterol? Why is their body in a state where they need to transfer and deliver these cellular resources? So that is how I think about it functionally. And if we're in that state, and then a bunch of our cholesterol is going towards making our cortisol and our stress hormones, which also includes things like tyrosine for norepinephrine and epinephrine, which are also involved in that pathway. And tyrosine is also the building block for our thyroid hormone and for our dopamine. So if you're in a stress pathway, it means that your cells are utilizing the building blocks from your sex hormones and from your thyroid, which is like your energy hormone, and from your dopamine, which is like your motivation neurotransmitter. So all of a sudden, if you are overstressing or you're isolated or you're feeling alone or you're inflamed because, I don't know, let's just say you like got in a fender bender and then you were kind of stressed about it. So you ate like crap the month afterwards. And then all of a sudden you started getting bloated and having some weird brain fog. And then you twisted your ankle and you're like, what just happened to my life? That's the injury cascade. That's the stress cascade that people get stuck in. And then you can get stuck in that for like 5 years. And then like 6 years later, you're like, I have Hashimoto's. Like, when did this happen? And that's how all of this can start. But I'd love to hear your take on those hormone pathways.
No, that's beautifully said. And that's actually that I talk about that steel process, that analogy all the time with patients, because I like to say it's like when you're just running on high alert all the time, your body just needs more resources to keep that going. So it's just stealing things away, the resources, and that can show, ultimately can start to poke away at the gut. That could be the beginning of leaky gut. And ultimately, right, your body doesn't want to lose weight. It doesn't want to sleep. It doesn't want to be happy. It doesn't probably want to have nice, smooth periods. Your hot flashes will probably be worse if you're peri- or postmenopausal. So all these things will get worse if that one domino isn't taken care of. And it's not that we wave the wand and the stress goes away and my life is perfect, right? It's about the resilience. It's about how we come back from those stresses and also figure out in the physical body how we can support it by finding that hidden inflammation, especially if you're doing all the things right, which often I hear from patients, I'm doing it all right, but identifying that piece so that we can heal that pathway and keep it smooth. So when the fender bender happens, when the kid does X, Y, Z, you're able to, come back to your center and not let that completely tear down your physical and emotional health, right?
Yep. And like, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, like coming back to center, right? Because that's what I consider health. I consider health resiliency and your ability to recover. You can look totally healthy, but if you, I don't know, throw out your back and then all of a sudden you like sink into a depression, your body is in a state where it was already close to a tipping point. And so it might be something to review of like, how else can I support my body? Why are my tissues weak? Like I shouldn't have thrown out my back doing that. Like, or is this a long-standing thing that I've been dealing with for a while? And, I see that all the time in the CrossFitters. And whenever I have the CrossFitters coming in with, kind of a major injury, I start looking at their adrenals because they work out super hard. And then sometimes I ask them how much they're working out. And they're like, oh, well, I'm doing a class 5 days a week. I'm like, that's great. What are you doing for your recovery day? And they're like, oh, well, I took a break and I did some work at home and I didn't exercise. And I was like, cool. I don't really consider that recovery. I consider recovery an active thing. It's something where you need to be nourishing your body and maybe doing something relaxing and maybe stretching and massaging the tissues and giving them attention in a different way than just like sitting on the couch, not even being aware of your body. Those are two really different things. And so that coming back to center, that resiliency, I think that's the definition of health.
And I think as we get older, as women get into this perimenopausal time, what was working from them in their 20s and 30s, it isn't, you just can't keep doing the same thing. You've got to adjust and listen to your body. And that rest piece, it isn't always super sexy or feel productive, but, it's often the missing link that helps, you ultimately to heal and find that resilience. All right.
Well, and yes, and I love talking about the biochemistry of why, right? So we were just talking about cortisol steal pathway. Part of that recovery makes the cortisol go down so that your body and your hormones can go up, and you need your hormones to build. Estrogen is a growth factor. We need that to recover. We need that to recover our tissues. That is why when people go through hormonal transitions and go into perimenopause, your tissues become a bit more friable. It's because you don't have those hormones for the tissue recovery. So anything that we can do to support the production of those hormones, which honestly, the easiest way to do it is to just not steal from them, because your body is always going to prioritize survival over tissue rebuilding, because rebuilding is something that we do in a safe state. And so I talk to people a lot too about like your body needs to be in a state where it feels safe. And you can be at home and in a safe environment and thinking about all your bills and thinking about all your problems and thinking about all this and not feel safe. And so that is where things like mindfulness come in, or meditation come in, or going for a walk outside and not thinking about all the problems in the world come in. Is it's just like giving yourself and giving your mind a break from that. And it's hard. Like I had one patient and she's like, I don't like meditating because when I get to that quiet place, all my anxiety comes up and it's really hard and it feels uncomfortable and it's not relaxing. I was like, you're right. It's not relaxing. It's hard. It's work. It's called personal work for a reason. But if we can start to control our minds and exercise our minds as much as we exercise our bodies, then we start to find this nice balanced state. And, you know, for guys and stuff too, I mean, women have testosterone too, but when it comes to testosterone, if you're inflamed and you're stressed out, you affect something called aromatase, which is an enzyme that has to do with the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. And so if that is affected, you are actually starting to convert your testosterone away from testosterone, and then you're not building muscle. You are creating estrogenic effects in your body, and that's okay to a point, but when you reach an imbalance of that, you can start to get some funny symptoms, and you just aren't going to be building muscle in the way that you think you are.
Yes. So let's get a little bit more practical, because I know you've created this course and this experience for folks to kind of close that gap around this area of how they can begin to me, it's a synergy. It's taking the lifestyle pieces, finding that hidden inflammation, putting it all together, and then keeping that momentum going. So I from our previous discussion, I get the idea that's why you've made this course. Let's talk about what the goals of that course are, that experience, and who it would be for. Who would this ring true for?
Absolutely. So I made it kind of broad because I wanted it to be available to anybody that needed it, because instead of going after a certain condition, I went after a state of being, because I think that's more realistic for all of us. And I'd rather help people understand their bodies before they ever have a condition. So I made this for the people where they're like, you know, all of my labs say I'm fine, but I don't know, I just don't feel fine. And every time I bring it up, I just kind of get dismissed. But it just, something feels off, and I've just kind of lost my zest for life, and I'm just kind of feeling, ugh. And I'm kind of lonely, and I'm just kind of reaching that like apathetic place. Or maybe you are recovering from an injury and you are going through a very lonely identity crisis because you're a runner or a big athlete that can't do the things that make you feel like yourself and make you feel happy. And you need to understand how to heal your body and also have some like community support while you're patient in that process, because your body's incredible and it knows how to heal, but it needs some time and it needs the right resources and it needs to be in the right biochemical state. Or, you know, the people who are feeling that wired and tired and they're like, I just feel kind of on edge all the time, but I'm also exhausted all the time. Like this is also for them, because those are signals. Those are your body speaking to you. And if you can start to learn how to listen to those, where you wake up in the morning, you're like, huh, why am I 4 pounds heavier today? That's weird. Anyway, no, not anyway. That means that you did something in the last 24 to 48 hours that made your body inflamed. Let's figure out what it was so that you can be like, maybe I shouldn't do that thing for the next like 3 or 4 days until my body becomes less puffy. That is how we make sustainability in our lives while still having fun and enjoying ourselves. Because I went through the whole process where my body hit capacity and I became like allergic to everything, and everyone I was seeing was like, oh yeah, just cut out this food and cut out that food and cut out this food and cut out that food. And I was like, I have like 4 foods that I can eat. Like I am not having a good time. But I had to figure out a way to still enjoy my life. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, like I can't have these foods all the time, but I can have them sometimes. And that is the art of reentry and learning how to listen to your body as you do that. Because maybe you realized, you know, gluten was causing you some issues, so you cut it out for a while. But a lot of people, they'll like cut something out for a month, they'll start to feel really good because 4 weeks is right when your hormones and your biochemistry starts to turn over, and then they'll plummet right back into it, and they'll just like bring gluten back in every single day because they're no longer on a gluten cleanse. Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to bring gluten in today and I'm going to see how I do. And then you do okay for 2 days, then on day 3 you react. Okay, cool. Now you have a map that you should not have gluten for more than 2 days in a row, and you need like a 2-day break in between. This is how we start to build a map for ourselves. And this is how we start to listen to our dynamic body, because it changes over time. And I run food sensitivity tests on people all the time, and there's like this stigma about them because they change. I'm like, well, yes, they do change. But if you're in a state where you're inflamed and you can't figure out why, if I can figure out that you're sensitive to beef or vanilla or that weird thing that you never would have thought you were sensitive to, and then all of a sudden we can take that out for like 90 days and your inflammation goes down, then we can start bringing it back in. But if we never know what we're sensitive to and we're just eating it, like I was sensitive to eggs. I love eggs. Eggs are great. They have lots of benefits. But I was subtly inflaming my body without knowing it, and then being confused as to why I could not get my biochemistry to turn over. So it's like finding those little hidden things, and I like doing things that are actionable, right? And so going through this course, there's no lab testing, but I'm just taking you through a process where you are writing your own goals. You are setting intentions. We're creating a ceremony and a container at the beginning of it, because you are choosing to participate basically in a home retreat with a group of other people, and you're making a commitment to yourself. The whole first week, I just give you time to like think about what you even want out of it, because we need to take time to acknowledge that we like made a decision for ourselves. And then, you know, for people who sign up through the masterclass that I run, I'll send a little care package at the beginning. So it's like you're going off to summer camp and you get that like care package from mom at the beginning. And so it creates this specialness to it, and it creates this thing that you're excited to show up for each week because it's for you. But you can do it from somewhere comfortable in your home and after the kids go to bed, because that's real life. So it is for men, it is for women. I've had both. I've had people coming in who are trying to do weight loss. I had a gentleman who did the recorded version himself first and then did the group program afterwards, because he had such great success doing the recorded version alone at home, and then he wanted the community. And I've had people participate in multiple group programs because they're different every single time, because it's a different group of people. And this time I'm going to be changing up some of the content and just adding in, like, I'm always updating it. I'm always adding in new things based on the feedback that I get and what people need. And last time people were like, I need help cooking. So I said, okay. And I brought on a professional chef for one of our group programs, and she just answered questions for people. And she's really good at doing cooking alternatives for food sensitivities. So stuff like that. I have a meditation coach who will come in sometimes and answer questions, because sometimes it's nice to get another view than just mine. So it's more about creating a container for people to transform while asking for what they need and being provided that. So that is how I kind of describe it to people. But through the 5 weeks, I will take you through the physiology of how your immune system works and how your body heals and what disrupts healing, and how to not only address your body, but also address your mind and your energy. So I also teach meditation in the course, and there are guided meditations each week. And, you know, it's a fairly loose thing, like do what's right for you. There's really only like 20 minutes of a recorded video each week that you're supposed to watch for the group call. But there's a ton of other resources that you can use based on how much you want to engage. And it's one of those things where it's like the more you put in, the more you get out. But there's just a group to support you along the way and answer questions that you have and help you through roadblocks, and people to commiserate with. And half the time people ask questions that you never would have thought to ask. And you're like, oh, that's me too. And then it allows me like a whole different tangent of conversation that I wouldn't have thought of on my own if I was just lecturing. So that's why I like the interactive component, because then I'm actually giving people what they need instead of what I think they might need. So that is how I describe it. And I call it HEAL, which is an acronym that I teach you throughout the week. HEAL, Foundations for Health, because no matter what you're going through, if you're going through a treatment, if you are preparing for a treatment, if you're just some average Joe who twisted their ankle, or you're a mom who's like, I need a retreat, like that is who it's for. And so it's just a time to listen to your body, learn about your own body, to start to become your own health authority so that you can make changes at home. And then if you need more help after that, that's when you reach out and that's when we can work together. But most of the time, if I teach people how their bodies work, they can resolve a lot of things on their own. And then that makes it sustainable for preventative healthcare.
Yeah. So you're really sharing your strategies that you use in a one-on-one setting. And to me, it sounds like it's all the things you would like people to do, like before even calling you up for one-on-one care, because you know the power of the synergy of what you're talking about. You know, probably I'm absolutely, there'll be new information that people don't know, but you know, some of the key things might be, oh yeah, I know that, but it's always how you put it together and the order and, you know, how do you keep it going, that I find that a group program especially can really, again, it's pushing that healing timeline even faster for somebody.
Well, order of operations is huge.
Yeah.
And I think, like, let's do the gut, for example, right? A lot of people are like, I'm just going to take all the probiotics and that's going to solve all my problems.
Yeah.
Not always. And it depends on the state that your body is in. If you're in a super inflamed state and your gut is torched, probiotics can make you worse. If you're taking probiotics and you're bloating, it's not the right time for that. We need to do things in a different order for you. But that is the listening to your body and understanding physiology and knowing like when your body is in a detox state or when it is in a inflamed, like acute state, or when it's in a state where it's rebuilding, and like how to foster each stage, because our body only has so many resources. So it's kind of in like one stage at a time. I mean, a little bit of each, but it tends to fluctuate to like one major stage at a time. So it's what stage are you in and how can we foster that? So that's a lot more of kind of what I teach, because everybody's different. Like I can't just give people a protocol, which is why I don't force you to follow some specific diet in the program. I ask you to set some goals for yourself and to do some reflection and to actually do an analysis of your own life. So it's like, yeah, like you're a component of your care. You are participating and engaged in the care. And when you can do that and you can start to evaluate your own life and see it with a critical but kind eye, then you start to have this relationship with your body that's not abusive to your body. Because we have very toxic relationships with our body. It's like all it's trying to do is keep you alive, and you're like, oh, you're so ugly. No, it's like your body's trying really hard. And if we can get to the point, like I used to be really upset at my knee when I had a knee injury. I'd call it my bad knee, be really angry at it because it ruined my life. And then I was like, oh no, like I ruined its life by pushing it way too hard. I'm sorry, knee. Like you're actually my knee that needs more love. Now that we have that relationship, it's way different. And when I go to exercise, I check in with them like, hey, like how you doing today? Do you need me like tweak some tissues? Oh, you need a rub there? Okay, cool. Let me rub you out for a second. Feeling good? Okay, cool. Now we can go for our run. And if I can teach people how to have a relationship like that with their body, it will not only allow you to live longer, but also have a higher quality of life and be more pleasant and joyful and happy rather than resentful in your life. And that takes us all the way back to the cortisol cascade. That affects your stress hormones, which affects your ability to heal. So there's a lot of perspective shifting and goal setting and motivational interviewing throughout, and along with the meditations to kind of really ingrain that in your neurology. And then those are tools that you can continue using afterwards. So they're tools that you can have for a lifetime that I can't teach in office. I can't go through like a whole meditation with you in an in-office appointment. It's really hard. And there's other things where like I take you on a tour through the grocery store and I show you how I shop and tactics for shopping and how to read labels and what to look out for and what to look for instead. That's also something I can't do in office. So it allowed me a chance to give people a lot more information than I could in just our appointments.
And make it actionable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not, you know, oh yeah, in one ear, out the other, you know, helping them take the next step.
Well, I think when I look into it, it's like that's what people need, right? Like everyone has told them what to do. People know they're supposed to eat healthy. They know they're supposed to drink water. Just making it happen, that's the hard part. So I wanted to make something that allowed you to make it happen in your own life.
Yeah, excellent. So people want to learn more about this amazing offering. What are their next steps and when does it start?
Sure. So you can just go to the link in my bio, just click Dr. Christine Smith and go right to the link, or you can go to www.depthwellness.com/resources. And that'll have everything there for you. It also has a link for signing up for a free masterclass that I'm going to do on Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this of like how to heal your own body, how to induce a healing state. What is a healing state biochemically, and how to understand that, and how to understand that your health is a network and it all interacts with each other, because we have a tendency to think of things as different systems. So that'll be Saturday the 20th at 10 a.m. All of the links are in my bio or at the depthwellness.com/resources. And then the course starts basically the 29th, but the first week of June. The last day for sign up is May 26th. So I definitely hope people join because I think it'll be really fun. I already have a couple people in the group. I think it's going to be a really fun group. And yeah, so if you just want some summer optimization, that's what this course is geared toward, is like getting yourself and your patterns reset for the summer so that you can feel great doing all the things that you love to do while the weather is beautiful and nice.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing experience that will, right, that you can take through your entire summer season. So that's amazing. Should we take any questions? Do we have time for that?
Yeah, totally.
And can you see the thread as well?
I can. Let's see here. I'm just looking back through to see if I missed anything. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to chime into the chat here. And if not, that's okay. You guys are welcome to comment later. And I always watch things after I post them, so I always try to answer your questions.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I can't wait to do more of these, Christine, because I think, again, we have a lot of similarities in our approach. And I just love how you explain and break down what's happening in the body in a way that, you know, that makes sense to people. I think that's the first step. And then, you know, even better, you have a strategy that helps people make those shifts when it comes to their stress physiology and hormones and more.
Oh,
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for making me break my own pattern today, which is what I always tell people to do, and presenting a different approach for this live today. It was actually really fun. And I'll look forward to definitely doing more with you in the future, because I think we can speak to a lot of good things for people.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.